Back to the next video. In today's video I will show you how to connect your native Android app for real-time communication with Socket.io library to your backend. So for my backend I am using Node.js server, and first of all I will show you the demo. So this is my Android app running. I also have a web app running. Now for testing you can use two Android devices, but the reason I'm not using two Android devices is because I don't have a second Android device. I only have one Android device. Now you might be saying that I can use an emulator, but the reason why I'm not using an emulator because my Node.js backend is hosted locally, and I have noticed that emulator gives a lot of issue when you're trying to connect locally, so that's why I'm not using emulator. But if you have two real Android devices you can test that as well. So here I have my Android app, and this is my Next.js app, which is a web app, React.js app you can say. So first I will say something from my React.js app. So I will say hello from web, and both the apps are connected to the server. So the message which you see connected to server, I'm getting it from my backend. So I'll quickly send this message, hello from web. I'll go back over here. So here you can see I'm getting hello from web. Now I will send some message from my Android app. So something like hello from Android, and I'll submit this message. So if I go to my web app, here you can see hello from Android. So yeah, that's what we will be doing today. So firstly I will explain my Node.js code. If you want explanation for this web code as well, I have already made a video on how to connect Socket.io client for Next.js or React.js app with Node.js, but I won't explain that React.js part in this video. I already have a video on that. Here I will quickly explain you the Node.js part. So firstly, inside my package.json I have two libraries. One is Express and Socket.io library, and here if you see inside my index.js, firstly I am creating objects for our Express and Socket.io library. Then I am creating an HTTP requiring the HTTP from Node.js as well, and also you have to do npm install. So if you don't know Node.js, you have to do npm install, those kind of stuff. So I'm not going into that because those are pretty basic. And here I'm creating object for our Express app, and this is boilerplate code for Express.js. And here we are creating our server, and here we are adding a course so that our client does not face any issues. So like we are allowing all the websites and Android apps to access our backend, but in production, once you deploy it to production, you can just add like whatever origin is. But here I am using the star wildcard so that everyone can access this. Also have added this bit of course handling as well in case you have an API for your Express.js app. So here just I have created a normal API. Again, this is pretty much useless in our case. Also this is again boilerplate code which you have to write. Now here is the main part. So once the connection is proper, what I am doing is that I am logging the socket ID, okay, and this is how you send the message. So as soon as someone has connected to our server, I am sending this message, like emitting the message from Node.js side to all the client apps like a mobile app or a web app, whoever is connected to our server, that okay, connected to server. So if you remember, we were seeing this message connected to server at the very start. So it is coming from over here. Also so this is how you receive message from the client, like from mobile app or from web app. So you have to use this key. Again, it can be anything, but you can use whatever, but make sure you use same keys on Android side and web side as well as on your backend side. Once I get a message from any one of the client, again I am emitting it back to all the clients. So suppose I may get a message from Android side, then I am emitting back. Again I am using the same key which I am using over here. Again, you don't have to use it, but if you are using different key, then you will have to listen for that different key in your Android and web app as well. And I am sending whatever data has, suppose the Android client send me some data, and I am sending this data to everyone, like both the Android as well as the web client. And here I am just starting our server. Now let's get back to the Android part. So firstly, what you will have to do, go to Android manifest. Here you will have to add this internet permission. Also, because my Node.js backend is hosted locally, I am using this uses clear text traffic. But if it is deployed on production, like on cloud or something, you don't need to use this, uses clear traffic. Next, inside build.gradle.kts, I have added this Socket.io client library, which is Java library. but we can easily use it with Kotlin as well. Next, if you see over here, I have so I'm using recycler view, and for that I have created this text to item which just has this text view. Okay, so this will be used by each of the cell of our recycler view inside our Android app. Next, I have defined a custom adapter for our recycler view as well. So it takes a list of string and it extends from recycler views adapter view holder, and here inside view holder I am initializing our text view which we have defined inside text row item, and inside on create view holder we are inflating our text row item, and on bind view holder I am just assigning whatever text we get, and inside get count get item count we are just using dataset dot size. Okay, next, if you go to my main activity over here, first if I will show you activity underscore main. So I have just taken an edit text. Here I have taken a button, and here I have taken a recycler view with a layout manager of linear layout manager. Okay, so yeah, that's it on the layout part. Next, if you come over here, I have taken a variable for recycler view button as well as edit text. Here I have taken a list of mutable list of string. Then here we are creating our URI. So this should be your IP address if it is hosted locally, and I'm listening on, and the Node.js server is hosted on port 3001. So this is for again, this is only for real Android device. If you are trying to run it on simulator, you might have to Google it on how to use localhost for simulator, because I think IP address does not really work on simulator. That's why I haven't tested it on emulator, because it causes a lot of issue. And then the options, I have kept everything as default, and from this I am creating our socket, and here I have initialized our recycler view submit button and edit text, and here I have set our custom adapter to our recycler view. And once the submit button is called, what I am doing, I am creating a JSON object. I am putting that data inside this data variable, and once that is done I am sending it. So message from client is the identifier, and if I go back to my Node.js app, it is listening to that same where did it go, message from clients, if you see over here. And it the way I am sending it back is data, right? I am not sending a string, I am sending a JSON object. That's why I am using JSON object over here as well. But if you directly want to send a string, you can send it, you don't need JSON object. But then here also you will have to remove this data as well. You just have to keep something like this. Similarly over here, again I'm using background thread, so I think it's better to use background coroutine thread, and here I'm using socket.connect. Okay, so as soon as on create is called, I'm connecting our Android app to our backend server, Node.js backend, and here in on I'm listening from the server, messages from server. So if you see, we were using the same identifier, right, while emitting from the backend, message from server. And once I get a message, I convert it to a JSON object. Okay, because again, while sending it, it sends you in a form of a JSON object. Next, once we get the data, then I am getting the data property, because while sending it as well, we are sending it inside the data property. That's why we need to get the data key from our JSON object. And once we get it, I am adding to our string, and then I am reloading our recycler view. Now and on destroy I am disconnecting from socket. Now just a small change, if you don't want to use something like this, I think this should work as well. Sorry about that, I think this should work. Let's like I was telling you, don't use notify dataset change, because that is causes performance issue on recycler view. You can use something like this. So here you can see I have reloaded my app using this. I'll just run it again just for so that you guys can see it as well. And here you can see it is connected to server. Now I'll send some message, I don't know, Android I guess, and it should be visible. So here you can see Android. Now if I go to my web app, okay, here you can see Android as well. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching.